elected chairman of this good group. And I will also introduce the other two members, Kent Glenzer.
Hi there.
And
Hi.
Stephen Milich.
Hello.
And the three of us are the appeals board. And then we have other staff members available with us. So I will call this meeting to order. And Alicia, are there any public comments that we need to be aware of?
I don't see any at this time, Mr. Hawkins.
Okay. So we will go into the agenda, and the first one is Robert and Pamela Lemus. And she has two trees that she's asked for approval to remove. And so that was denied by the forester. So we are to hear her appeal. And Mrs. Lemus, do you want to, you're up first.
Okay, first of
Hold on, if I may, Daryl, if I
Please.
may, I just want to, I'm the assistant city attorney for the city of Monterey. I'm representing the appeals hearing board today. My name is Karen Salama. This is an informal hearing, but I did want to state for the record that myself and Deputy City Attorney Ryan Donlin have established an ethical wall and have not communicated in any way regarding the substance of this matter or any facts pertaining to it. And I have not talked to the department, in this case, the Department of Parks and Recreation, regarding any of the matters before the board today. With that, if any of the board members had any ex parte contacts regarding this matter, they should disclose it now for the record.
Okay, not I.
None,
No.
none for me.
No.
And I should add that this appeals board is an informal hearing,
Yes, go ahead.
and formal rules of evidence do not apply. And the board may consider any evidence or information deemed relevant, and parties do not have the right to cross-examine witnesses. So hopefully in 10 or 15 minutes, Pamela, you can discuss and summarize the reasons for your appeal.
Okay, we have a statement that we've written up and an additional consideration. We'd like to have your support and are open to ideas. We would like to come to a mutually equitable conclusion. We've contracted a landscape designer. His plan is to widen our driveway and create a semicircle driveway and make the entry more apparent in order to minimize the use of the second driveway. 85% of the people who come to our home come to the back door. This forces us to use a narrow staircase and allow service entry people to enter. Bob is 76 years old, and I've had surgery and radiation treatments on my legs, so it's very difficult for us to negotiate the narrow staircase. When invitees approach the front door, we can meet them on the main level. In order to expand our driveway, it'll be necessary to alter the terrain by grading, and the future landscape changes will be performed in hardscapes. We're open to replacing any tree that we remove. And also the pronunciation of our last name is Leams.
Leans, thank you. I was
Leams. It's like L, it should be spelled L-E-I-M-S, but yeah, the I is silent.
good. I appreciate that.
Sure.
That is kind of new information for us, I think. I did not see that in your package. It was mainly based upon fire safety.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, and
but
we
in
have
the
some,
meantime, right?
yeah,
we have-
additional concerns because the roots are becoming exposed, and if they do any grading, it's going to expose the roots more. Since we've moved here in August, there's been 2 trees that have fallen around us. So
Okay, it's a little hard, and I've been by your house, so I vaguely know what you're talking about. But without a plan in front of us, it's a little hard to know exactly what you're thinking. And I understand I have to go down a stairway to our mailbox at my house, and I need to get a handrail up there. I'm 74 and not great in my balance.
it doesn't get any better.
Yeah. Stephen?
May I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair, that it sounds like the appellant needs to get together with a landscape architect and the city forester and come up with a plan that can be presented and voted upon. All we can do is either grant or deny the appeal. And I would suggest, if the appellant is so inclined, that she withdraw the appeal or continue it for a purpose of trying to work out something with the city that's beneficial and agreeable to everyone.
We would be agreeable to continuing it. We've asked the landscape designer to give us a rough drawing, and he didn't have enough time to do so. So it's in progress. So we would have a drawing to show you in the future.
If I may, this is Ryan Donlin, Deputy City Attorney representing the Forestry Department in this matter. This is new information. I don't think a continuance would be appropriate. This would be a whole new application to the forester. This was information that was never provided to the forester at the time of the original application. It's essentially a brand new application. So I don't think a continuance would be appropriate. If the applicant would like to submit a new application with different information, that is the applicant's right. But I don't think a continuance would be appropriate, and we would ask for a determination of this appeal unless the applicant wants to withdraw it.
No, we continue on because we've already contracted the design landscaper. So I think it's best for us to pursue this route rather than the one that you did before. I think I did mention we wrote the city a letter, I believe, a short memo, that in the meantime we've contracted a landscape designer, which was referred to us by Dr. Kanat, who's have the same landscaper done on him. He's on La Mirada. And we've thought that he was a very good landscaper. And so that's the reason why we contracted him, because of the reference of the doctor.
How much does an application cost? What's the filing fee?
I can just jump in here. Development related tree removal permits would go through.
Can't hear you.
I'm muted?
I can't hear him.
No,
You're just quiet.
Oh,
We can hear you. You're just really quiet.
my microphone fell on the floor, probably to be the issue. Those applications go through the planning department, since they're talking about landscape renovations, new hardscape, likely would be approved. So I don't know. I mean, I'll leave it to you, but it's just a little procedural information.
We don't know what the filing fee is?
I do not, because I don't process those. They'll
Well,
bring me in
the
for
applicant would know.
consultant.
you're talking about the check that we wrote to.
No, that's to the forest.
You have to pay a filing fee in order to get the permit.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We just sent $192 for the filing fee. I guess that's a filing fee. I'm not sure.
The fee for this appeal was $191.
Yeah, it was previously spelled somewhere else for $300, which we sent. And then I believe
That was to the forester,
right?
right?
To the forester, and I believe the assistant forester, Matt, said that they were going to destroy the $300 because we have to go through an appeal process.
Yeah, that was for an arborist fee or for the forester to come out and assess the tree, right?
How long a continuance would you like, or would you need to?
No, you mean
For
or
us,
for the forester?
No, for Robert Collins to finish with his drawing.
I don't know. I gave him a chance 2 weeks ago, but he said he is working on Dr. Knott's.
Well,
Right.
then, without knowing a definite date that we could have it before us, I would suggest you, if you're amenable to it, that you just withdraw your appeal.
Okay, we can just
It's
call it.
entirely up to you.
So if we withdraw our appeal, do we pay the fee to have another appeal, or that check is held until we come up with another date?
I would think you probably have to pay a new fee, but I don't know.
Okay, well, when we signed the contract with John Collins, it was, he said he would be finished in 3 months, and that was a month ago. So I would imagine 2 months out would be fine.
Justin, could you repeat what you said earlier about this is a completely different part of the city that they have to deal with?
Yeah, and Ryan, let me know if you want to step in, but I think there's a little bit of confusion here. This wouldn't be a situation for an appeal. It's a different avenue of applying for removal. If they are appealing based on what they submitted to me, which I believe is the point of this hearing today, is the fire hazard concerns, the appeal is appropriate. Otherwise, there hasn't really been an application in, or the hasn't been a decision
Because
made.
it's not in front of us.
That's
There
right.
has not been an official city decision
Yeah,
made
good
regarding re-landscaping, alterations to the property.
I agree, and that is the point I was trying to make earlier.
So what you were saying then was that you felt that a permit for landscaping would be approved if it was done with hardscape?
We
I
cannot
would
make
not
any
recommend-
representations as to approval of other applications not before us today. Today is just to consider the appeal regarding your claims of a fire hazard and the evidence that was before the forestry department. So if you want to go forward with the board considering that appeal, we can, or you can withdraw the appeal and submit another application to the planning department regarding the overall re-landscaping.
Okay, that's
Thank you,
fine.
Karen.
Let's do that. Let's do that, and then get
So how do we go about
Yes.
getting an application for that?
because we've only lived here 5 months ago.
Yeah, we
And
moved here after the
moved
Napa
here-
fire.
Yeah, we were here. I don't know if the forester have included you in that we lost our home on the Atlas fire, which is in Napa. We were only 5 minutes. We only had 5 minutes to escape. We had helicopters hovering over us to
No, we had 5 minutes, and then when
5
we got to the
minutes.
bottom of the road, a tree had fallen, and
Right,
that
so we
blocked the
couldn't-
only exit, so we had to go back up, and the emergency exit is where the fire was. So for an hour and a half, we were surrounded by fire, stuck there in the dark, in front of a house that had a pool in case we had to jump in. And when they cleared that tree, we had to drive through the fire to exit. So you can understand our concern about having the proper distance.
Yeah, and both Pam and I were on the council, the Firewise Council at the time for the last 7 or 10 years. As a matter of fact, I'm still on the council there, even though we moved here, and this home is owned by my parents a long time ago. I think they
That's been
purchased-
in the house family
It's been
for
in the
50 years, right?
Family,
Yeah.
55 years. And so we didn't have a place to go, and the insurance company was taking care of us for only 2 years in Napa. And so we thought, well, we might as well move to Monterey, which we think it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do our best right now to
to do things the right way
The
and
right
ask
way.
permission. And it's much
Right.
different here. Water's a problem, trees are a problem. It's much different than Napa.
Much different than Napa, but then we have 2 acres in Napa, so that's a little bit different. We had our own water and our own utilities, you might say, because our propane is to keep us warm.
Right, there's no,
So if, I know you mentioned you didn't know where to submit the permit to the planning
Yes.
department. If you, I know you've been communicating with Alicia Salas, our clerk today. She can give you the contact information, the email and phone
Okay.
number for the planning department after this hearing.
okay.
Okay, so I just want to confirm for the record, your decision today is that you're going to withdraw this appeal so that you can then submit a different separate application to the planning department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In light of that, I think our chair can close this hearing unless there is anything further that the appellant wants to say.
No, I think we're done.
And Alicia, was there any public comment?
1 minute? No, not at this time, Karen.
Okay.
Please give us your instructions how to go about this.
Okay. Clerk Salas will contact you after the hearing with the contact information.
Okay.
Chair Hawkins,
Yes.
are we good to close this hearing?
I am. Is there anything officially we need to do?
Well, they stated for the record that they're withdrawing their appeal.
Okay.
So I don't think the board needs, there's nothing for the board to take action on then.
Okay. Good. Well, we share your enjoyment of Monterey and welcome you here.
Thank you. I look forward to the time where we can actually go out and meet some people.
Yes, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came here about what? I stayed with my parents for only about 7 months, and then I went to the Bay Area to start college.
This is new for
right?
you too, huh?
Yeah, I've never, like I said, I've only lived here seven months out of the 55 years that
Well, I've
my
been in
family.
Napa since I was 3 years old, so this is a whole new experience for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, thank you for listening to our guidance, and we wish you luck. And I think the planning department knows exactly what to do. Pretty simple architectural review application, and your landscape architect can guide you through that process.
Okay.
Okay,
And
I hope we'll be successful.
And where's the planning
Okay.
department? And
And Alicia will give us a call and
Okay.
help us with that.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll
Great.
email, I'll email you the planning contact info as immediately following the hearing.
The email or snail mail?
I'll get you both. I'll get you everything you need to contact them, phone number,
Okay.
email, and
Great.
snail mail if you'd like that as well.
Okay,
Great.
perfect.
Okay.
Everybody stay safe. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
time.
and thank you
for
Thank you.
attending.
and thank you for all these dignitaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Alicia, I believe the next group was scheduled to log on at 11:30. Is that right?
that's correct. Mr. Chaffee is already waiting as an attendee right now. If we want to continue, or if you guys want to take a couple of minutes break, we can do that too. I don't see Ryan on the call, so maybe we better wait a little bit. He was having some issues with, he said his feed was frozen.
So why don't we come back at 38 at the half hour?
Okay, sounds good.
This is to open the hearing on the Tanglewood project. I'm looking for my right packet and I don't have it in front of me. But I'm Daryl Hawkins on the appeals board, and we also have with us Stephen Milich and Kent Glenzer.
Hi there.
And we will proceed with the hearing. I will, as we talk about this, this is an informal hearing. Informal rules of evidence do not apply, and the board may consider any evidence or information deemed relevant and reliable. We will give you 10 or 15 minutes as the appellant to discuss your thoughts, which we have seen and read. By the way, your very thorough and complete description of where we are. And I think that's it. So, Kurt, you can proceed on your thoughts.
All right, Daryl, I just would like to say for the record one more time that as in the prior hearing, Deputy City Attorney Ryan Dunlin and I have an ethical wall established. I am representing the Appeals Hearing Board today and have not discussed any of the factual basis for this appeal with either Mr. Donlin or the department. And with that, the appellant may begin.
You guys have a visual for me, or is it just audio?
We do not have a visual right
Okay.
now.
Oh, it's just audio. Okay. Well, I guess I could have stayed in my pajamas this morning. Well, I don't have a ton to add. We appreciate Justin and his department's stewardship. Tanglewood is our property, has hundreds of Monterey pine trees. Some are leaning, most are in pretty good shape right now, thankfully. The tree in question has been an issue for several years. We've had some complaints from owners regarding their concern that it was a safety issue. 70% of its growth and the weight of it is on the lean side. And unlike some of our other leaning trees, this one, its path, should it fall, is directly towards structure, and in particular our unit 75, which is currently occupied. We don't normally come to the city that much, or Justin, but we felt in this particular instance that it was worth our effort, to the point where we did go ahead and hire Amanda Gates to come in and give us an assessment. And her general assessment was that it was a threat and it probably should be removed. We're somewhat sensitive now to the tree situation because a couple of years ago, some of you may remember, one of our owners on our property was driving to work at 6:30 in the morning down Skyline Drive. She just left her unit below me and was on her way to her classroom. She's a teacher in Watsonville, and she was killed instantly because a tree had fallen on Skyline Drive, and she didn't see it until it was too late. But so the concern has been elevated a little bit the last couple of years, but we feel like this particular tree, out of all of them on our property, is a real threat. That's about it.
Okay. Justin, you've also been involved and looked at the tree. Do you have anything to add?
I would say if you've reviewed the arborist report that I submitted, it pretty well sums up my position on it. It does have a lean, not a tremendous one, certainly not more than I've seen in a lot of trees. It's otherwise pretty healthy. I didn't get into it. I dispute a lot of the claims that Amanda made in her report. So unless you have specific questions for me, I'll just let you to review my report. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer.
I have two questions for you, Justin.
Sure.
One is a little bit ambiguous and one is probably not so ambiguous. But formal rules of evidence are not what we do here. I'm curious if you could, from your perspective, I mean, one of the aspects of Amanda's report was about the parasitic growth on the tree. And can you just tell me from your perspective, when it comes to that kind of parasitic growth, what would constitute from a visual conclusion that parasitic growth is actually important in terms of the tree future, and what amount of parasitic growth isn't, all that important? That's my first question. I'll just give you two questions, all right? So that's my first question. And then I'm just kind of curious, this is the ambiguous question, a little bit more ambiguous, which is, from your perspective, Justin, what's the difference between a dangerous lean and an acceptable lean?
Great question.
Okay, so I'll answer them in order. The mistletoe that she mentioned, it's very common. It would be hard for you to find a Monterey pine tree in the forest without that mistletoe growing. To say what is the exact, so mistletoe is not a decay organism. It's not a fungi or something. If there's any fungal bodies, even if are unsure what they are, err on the side of caution, remove the tree. What it does really is reduces the vigor of the tree, the growth of the tree. It's typically more of a concern in forest, like timber production, because it'll slow the growth of the tree and less money. It's not really a failure potential. And there's a couple of incidences of it on trees around there, but that didn't concern me. As far as lean, lean in itself in a bubble is not considered a defect. It's, as I mentioned in the report, it's the compounding factors. You're looking at overall structure. Does it have buttress roots that provide stability? In this case, it did. Is the lean caused due to soil failure? Is there evidence that there's a moisture pooling or something like that? The crown balance, I don't have Amanda's report in front of me. I thought the crown was not unbalanced. It had branching on both sides. If you look at the first page of that report, it shows a pretty well balanced crown. So it's really the compounding factors that add lean. Lean gives a target. Were it to fail at the base, it's pretty reasonable to consider that it would go towards that house. But tree risk assessment involves, not only will it hit the house, if it will hit the target, but will it fail and hit the target?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's sort of a, I guess, ambiguous answer to an ambiguous question, but it's more the compounding factors that would then make lean concerning.
Okay, thanks. And if I'll just finish up if it's okay, Stephen and Daryl. I have one question for Kurt. Kurt, are you hearing me okay?
Sure.
So, I noticed in an email in the packet, it was from November 20th, 2020, and it said that the housing, the HOA had said that there, and I think I'm quoting here, another arborist that has the interior testing equipment she believes would give us a better shot at appeal. I'm curious whether any additional testing was actually done since November 20th, 2020.
No, I attempted. There's only, according to Amanda, a couple people in our area who have the capacity to do that, and calls were made, and no one returned calls. So we essentially gave up on that because I spent a couple weeks trying to chase these people down and got nowhere. So we didn't go forward. I definitely want to dispute one thing Justin said is you can see the tree yourself, and the majority of the growth is on the lean side. You could assess that in about 10 seconds of standing there. So that's really all I had in response to Justin's comments.
Thanks.
Okay, Stephen?
For Justin, to what extent, if at all, do you take into account possible damage to residents in determining whether or not to allow a tree to be removed? Do you take that into account at all? And if so, to what extent?
Yeah, that's part of just the general tree risk assessment standards that are established by the International Society of Arboriculture. I believe Amanda has the same certifications I do, but that's a consideration. There's a matrix, I think that's somewhere in my report towards the bottom, and it shows kind of those, basically there's a system where you figure out, what's going to fail, what happens if it does, and that minor or negligible, minor, and severe are parts of that. And even in this case, it would be more damage than I would want to my house personally if it did fail. It's just what makes it overall, in my opinion, a low risk tree. It's not likely to fail.
What's the angle, and how much steeper an angle would it take in order to be dangerous, in your opinion? Or would a steeper angle make it dangerous?
It kind of goes back to Kent's question earlier. It just depends on the compounding factors. In some places, maybe an angle that we're seeing here, I would estimate maybe about 15 degrees. Again,
so it's a judgment call then.
I have my report. Yeah, I don't see that as a concern here. If it were sitting on a steep embankment and it was 15 degrees, well, that might be a very different situation.
So it's a judgment call on your behalf, which I appreciate. That's what you get paid the big bucks for. Thank you.
Justin, a couple questions. I went up and looked at it, and I could immediately see, and I liked your word, phototropic growth. I could see there was another tree, similar tree right next to it, and this one was leaning towards the open space, the driveway, and was catching the sun, and was, in my mind, clearly was not leaning because of the failure, but it's the tree itself which is angled to get a better angle towards the sunlight. So that helped me a lot, seeing it just in place and seeing that it was angling, which trees do in plants, towards the sun. The other question, this is more a general question. The roots are pretty well surrounded by asphalt paving. Are they able to get enough moisture and water to thrive through the the asphalt paving's keeping the rain from getting into the soil? And but I also know, and I'll throw in another question, I don't know the answer to this. That's right at the top of the cliff going up from Pebble Beach. And I used to live on Mar Vista, so I know the fog would hang right by our house there. Do pine trees benefit from the moisture of the fog?
Monterey pines, yes, particularly. They don't do very well. You just go inland a little bit and you see where they're planted in the Carmel Valley. They struggle
Right
past that fog belt anyway. The paving area, it's reduced some of it. I wouldn't say it has plenty of area elsewhere to grow. Likely there's feeder roots or even buttress roots further under there. It's an established tree, so it's probably got roots far enough where it's getting that constant kind of moisture that does percolate down.
Okay.
It's not overly paved or too much. it seems to be doing well.
Okay, good. That's helped. As you know, I've had experience with trees at my church that died from the drought because they weren't getting enough water. And this one seems well nourished and watered as you look at it. Okay, any other comments?
I have a question for Karen. And it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of a procedural question. Forgive me, Kurt, I'm new to the board, so I don't have everything memorized.
Sure.
But it's my procedural question. I seem to recall from one of my earlier meetings, I think this is my third, I seem to recall that in terms of an appeal to this appeal board, the appealer should or needs to come to this with new evidence. Am I misremembering that or no? Just from a procedural standpoint.
So in terms of the tree appeals, no, they don't have to
Okay.
have new evidence. They could just argue that it had been wrongly decided
Okay,
previously.
got it. Thanks.
Okay, are we, well, I would state the tree looks healthy. I understand it may deteriorate in the future, but at this point, I was especially encouraged when I saw the lean of the tree is towards the sun. That helped me understand why it had that lean with the tree right next to it. Is there someone ready to make a motion?
Prior to us opening deliberations, we should see if there's any public comment.
Oh, okay.
No, at this time, there's no public comment.
Okay.
Okay. So then are we closing the hearing portion and taking it to the board for deliberation at this point?
Okay, I'm ready.
I'd just like to comment that I think for me, it's a close call.
Yeah.
But the two things that influence my way of voting in this are the fact that I'm concerned about the danger to property people, and also the fact that if it were the only tree or it was one of a few trees, I'd be more reluctant to vote to remove it. But this is a forest of trees. They can be replanted. I realize it's phototropic, it's growing towards the sun, but back in the recesses of my mind is my concern, what if it fails? And that's just me. So
Well, it isn't just you. It's the HOA and myself, and I appreciate you acknowledging that.
This is deliberations for the board.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you had entered into final deliberations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in any event, that's just my thinking. Thank you.
Also, and I agree with your comment, Steve, of the potential danger. Also, as I was driving around, I do not see many, if any, new young trees. And I'm wondering if this gets replaced with three new trees to the one, I almost feel that's a healthy thing. I feel like we're okay for now with this tree, but it's going to continue to possibly exhibit problems. And they always have the right as it degenerates to come back. But I understand the worry and the danger, and all the trees up there are fairly mature. So replacing it 3-to-1 with some new young trees, I think is a positive for that development and remove whether it's a danger or not, it's still a perceived danger. And I understand how it would worry the homeowners association and the people living there.
So thanks for that, both of you. Where I'm landing on this right now is you know, Daryl, I didn't drive up there to look at the tree, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't learned anything new from this conversation that would make me question the science of Justin's report. Yeah, that's just in a nutshell where I am right now.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion? Any more discussion?
I move to sustain the appeal and replace it with 3 trees.
Okay. Is there a second? I think I've been thinking of this for a long time. I think I'll go ahead and second it. And Justin, I appreciate your review. I think it's probably good for a while. The tree is, but yet I see it's a mature forest. I see an opportunity for 3 young trees to replace one existing and remove the fear of the homeowners association. I think that will always be there. Whether it's valid or not, it does have more of a lean than another tree we were looking at in Monsalis. And in my mind, it's healthy, but I also understand the worry and confusion of the potential for it falling. Okay. Any other comments? Are we ready to vote?
Call the question.
Okay.
Okay, we're all ready to vote. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Board Member Milich,
Yes.
Board Member Glenzer,
No.
Chair Hawkins.
Yes.
The motion passes 2-1.
Okay.
So just as a procedural matter, I will formulate the board's decision into a written decision and bring it back at the next meeting for your approval.
With the findings.
Exactly.
Okay. Mr. Chaffee, thank you very much. We appreciate your presence and worry and observations and study for this.
No, we all appreciate the city. We've had nothing but positive interactions with everyone involved in the city. And we appreciate what you're doing through some difficult times, Justin included.
Yes.
Thanks, Kurt.
Sure. Are we good, Alicia?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like Deputy Donilon is having issues again. Our next appellant is not till 12:30, and I do not, let's see, I don't see that they're even here yet, so they probably won't show up till 12:30. So maybe we should take a recess until 12:30.
Okay.
Karen, is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Fine with me.
While we go on the recess, may I ask you if anybody knows what you call frozen holy water on a stick?
I think you told us this last time.
Did I really?
It's a popsicle.
You remembered. No one else
And this will be our third hearing today for 514 Prescott Avenue, appeal of a decision to remove a pepper tree. And just in general, well, I should introduce the board members. I'm Chairman Daryl Hawkins, and Steve Milich is a board member, and Kent Glenzer is also here. So we are ready to go. This is just in general an informal hearing. Informal rules of evidence do not apply, and we can consider any evidence or information deemed relevant and reasonably reliable. And I think that covers my part. Karen, you have a comment?
Yeah, just again, for the record, as with the prior hearings, Deputy City Attorney Donlin and I have established an ethical wall and have not communicated at all about the substance of the appeal. And I, as the attorney for the Appeals Hearing Board, have not communicated with the department, in this case, the Parks and Recreation Department, at all regarding this matter. Therefore, I think we're ready to begin.
Okay, good. And the appellant, tell us how to pronounce your name if you can hear us.
Sure. My name is pronounced Chinyere Obona.
Okay. And so give us, we have received your very extensive, well-prepared document, and we appreciate that. Very clear. And anything you would like to discuss or emphasize or talk to us about?
Yeah. So just in terms of the initial decision to apply for the tree removal, I did want to make sure that it would be a reasonable request. And so I did speak with 4 different arborists to get their opinions. And the consensus that I got from them was that it would be reasonable to try to submit the tree removal permit on the basis of where the tree is located, and just taking into account the my property and the front yard and just the size and orientation of it. They felt obviously the tree is healthy. I'm not here to dispute that. They felt the tree was healthy, but wasn't necessarily in the best location for the property. They made some recommendations of where the tree could be removed and replanted. I've always approach this with wanting to replant trees. I don't want no trees on my property. That's certainly not my goal. But certainly a lot of anxiety just related to where the tree is, being directly over the sewer line, which gets pointed out to me multiple times when people come over. And certainly the investment made and having to replace the line and wanting to protect that. And, you know, being in a older home, which I absolutely love. And just again, anxiety about having to deal with future maintenance related to that. So I do want to just emphasize that I do want to replant trees. I'm very happy to replant, you know, 3 15-gallon trees. I was able to look at the website and looked at a list of native trees and garden trees and landscaping trees, and happy to pick any tree that is on that list or follow any other recommendations that would be made by the board. And just in terms of aesthetics, I don't believe that it would lower aesthetics or ruin aesthetics of the neighborhood if the tree were to be removed. I do think it's an opportunity to actually improve the aesthetics by being able to replant trees in a location that's much more sustainable. And hopefully, you know, have that opportunity to increase property values as a result of improving the aesthetics. And I do have support from my neighbor who lives next door. She's lived in her house for over 25 years. She's also expressed some concerns about the tree. And I do, again, concede that some of her concerns could be addressed by trimming the tree, but for me, the location of the tree is something that cannot be addressed by simply trimming the tree. So hoping that other pieces of evidence could be taken into account. And I try to include a lot of pictures to kind of give it a sense of the layout and kind of what I'm working with just the front yard. I love to garden and would love that opportunity to continue to garden. I'm fortunate that the front yard is south facing, and that's optimal for gardening. So having the opportunity to continue to do that, especially, you know, with everything that's going on, that's kind of my self-care activity and something that I really enjoy doing and find to be very calming and grounding, and would love the opportunity to be able to do that in my front yard. So I try to be as detailed as possible in terms of my reasoning with the presentation that I shared with you guys, and I'm open to answering any questions or any feedback.
Okay, good. And we agree you did a good presentation. Do the board members have comments or questions? I've also had trouble at my house with roots, but fortunately it wasn't as deep as yours, but we had it pulled out and replaced 25 years ago and had no problems. It sounds like you had your sewer line inserted with a continuous, some sort of plastic liner. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm not familiar with what the material is that you used, but in my knowledge, you should have no problems with that. No more problems with your sewer line, because if it's lined, the roots can't get access to the water, which is what it's seeking for. And they're limited from getting in because of what you've already done there.
Do you want to hear
Steve
from
or
the
Ken?
department?
Excuse me?
What'd you say?
Oh, do you want to hear from the department now?
Oh, thank you. Yes.
So yeah, in this case, really, my denial is based on the criteria that I can consider. Infrastructure damage is one of those things, but as you alluded to, Daryl, damage to sewer pipes is usually related to existing damage. There's a crack in the pipe, which a tree root will definitely capitalize on and let you know you have a problem pretty quickly. When the pipe is repaired, it's really not something that happens. They don't have no reason to break through a pipe. There is adequate growing space. So that was kind of the one thing that I could consider for my criteria, and that was the reason I denied that. There's some communication lines there. It's not a safety hazard being in contact with those. Even so, could be pruned. Some mention of visual clearance from the driveway. That was brought up after the fact, but I think that again is it's more related to a retaining wall and a fence that exists than it is the tree causing that visual obstruction. And yeah, unless you have specific questions for me, that's really all I have.
Okay. Any Kent or Stephen, any comments or questions?
It seems to me that this is a case of where you have, I'd rather the tree were somewhere else, as opposed to, it's a defective tree. That's how I see it.
Yeah, well, that's certainly accurate from my perspective also. This seems to be, well, we're not doing discussion just yet, sorry.
Okay. one thing that I became aware of, I looked up the zoning for this site, which is R35. And typically R35, the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. And you only have a lot of 3,700 square feet. And you have minimal setbacks, and the maximum coverage is 40%. And what you have there, just by observation, is probably 60 or 70% lot coverage. So that's not in discussion today. That's not illegal. It's existing. But it does indicate that you have less land to work on than a normal lot in that zone. You would have 60% of your lot open and not covered, and you have a lot less land available. So I think that's part of our problem here. You have a lot that is smaller than adjacent, and also it has a greater coverage by your house and garage than would be allowed today. I do have one observation. I like the full mature tree that you have there, and there's less trees in that area than in a lot of Monterey as you look at the aerial site. So to me, it's a fairly significant and important tree for the whole neighborhood, because you can't, there's just not that much property to plant trees on. And so I definitely agree with Justin. It's a valuable tree for the sake of the city of Monterey. And if you look at replacing it with a fruit tree, those are deciduous, so you wouldn't even see those. They wouldn't be significant during many months of the year. Those are my observations.
Justin, can I ask a question about this choice to replant 3 trees? Does that mean that they have to be planted on the property owner's property?
And attorneys correct me if I'm wrong, but in typical removal permits, if somebody says they don't have space or they don't want to replant, there is an in lieu fee, which is an option. That's $500 per tree if they wanted to plant elsewhere.
So I'm sorry, I'm not sure of the procedure. Am I able to provide some comments at any time, or is it reserved for another time?
Yeah, I think you're available. This is the time when we get to the board member deliberation, no, but this is our open discussion time, so feel free to speak up.
Okay. So in my initial application, I did indicate that I would replant with fruit trees, not knowing that that would not be sufficient. I have no problems planting any of the trees that I saw on the website. So, including the coastal oak. I do feel that I have space along the side to plant additional trees. And again, I have no opposition to planting replacement trees at all.
Okay, we appreciate that.
Chinyeri, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It's so I'm kind of putting this all into time, like over the next few decades. And I'm kind of, so one of the things I'm thinking is, and I'm not sure I'm right about this, but it is just on my mind and I'm curious what you think. I mean, if you replace 1 tree with 3 trees, then 40 years from now, someone's going to have even more tree cover to have to deal with on that property, aren't they?
Yes, but I believe the location, just being able to move the tree would be in a more sustainable location, so there wouldn't be any issues. And I do feel that I have space to replant the 3 trees. And the space that I highlighted in the documents that I presented to you is just again, I'm open to suggestions or recommendations if that does not seem to be an adequate space, but I have talked to landscaper and they felt that that would be an appropriate place to replant trees.
It looks like from the aerial photographs, your side yard setbacks may be only 3 or 4 feet wide and in the rear yard. Is that true?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, from the fence, your property line to your house,
Okay.
what's that? What is that distance?
I don't know if I...
Approximately. And in other words, you have no room except in front to plant those trees.
That is correct. I don't
Yeah.
have a backyard. And
Right.
so that was also, you know, that was something that I wanted to highlight, is the fact that I don't have a backyard. But I do feel that I do have adequate space to replant trees.
Okay, and that's a result of my comment that you are over coverage on your basic building compared to current limits. So you really don't have anything breadth the front yard to add any landscaping.
Yes, that would be an accurate statement. I just have the front yard.
Right.
Board, this is Ryan Donlin. Sorry, I've been having a lot of technical difficulties getting through, so I hope everyone can hear me okay. I wanted to address one of the questions posed earlier about the payment of an in lieu fee rather than planting new trees. That is not the recommendation of the forester, as noted in the agenda report, but that is permitted by the city code. Section 3711 does allow payment in lieu of replacement of the trees. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Not from me.
Okay, Stephen?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. So we'll close the hearing and take it back to the board members. What are
We
your
should do
thoughts?
public comment before then.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Any comments from the public, Alicia?
We do have someone on the line. They've just unmute themselves. Go ahead and proceed, Ms. Mitchell.
Oh, thank you. I am the neighbor across, who shares, whose driveway is in question. And I just wanted to support how, because of the nature of the tree and the hanging foliage, the pruning, trimming it so that I can see oncoming traffic coming from down the hill, it is very short-lived because it has those long draping branches and leaves, which can obstruct my view sometimes. And the other comment I had about the lack of trees in that area, I'm in the process of, I just removed a tree and with a permit, and will be replacing it along that driveway, which would be my backyard, but visible from the street. And I'm going to be putting in an olive tree. So at this moment in time, it looks kind of, the area looks bleak, but it won't be for long. That's just a transitional moment. There are trees on my side of the fence. I have an apple tree, which doesn't get adequate sun actually because of the pepper tree on the other side. But I just wanted to chime in and let you know that I'm here in support of my neighbor.
Okay, thank you, and we appreciate that. Okay, any other questions for?
I do
the
actually
applicant?
have one. I'm sorry, Daryl. I have a new one for Justin. Just
Okay,
based on
Okay.
based on part of
Hold one moment. So I just wanted to let you know there's no more public comments, so we'll close public comments at this time. Okay, Board Member Glenzer, go ahead, proceed. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So eager with my questions. Justin, this conversation has made me want to ask this question. When you do a tree assessment, because part of the conversation we've been having right now is about the safety factor as it relates to viewing the road and oncoming and incoming traffic and so on and so forth. Is that part of your assessment?
Yeah, you know, there is some, I guess, broadness written into the, I don't know if that's a word, but it's written into the code as far as my decision making goes. And really my criteria is removal is the option when pruning is not, or maintenance is not a reasonable mitigation. So in terms of the safety considerations here, which I don't think were listed on the initial application, so I don't believe I was even really assessing that. Excuse me, filtering. But when I go out and do an observation, I'm still using my common sense, right? If I find something that's not on the application, but I'm there looking at it, I consider that.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Okay, board members, what's your thoughts and discussion?
Well, it's a healthy tree. Maybe it shouldn't have been planted there 50 years ago, but it was. It's the shape of the lot that is causing the concern, not the tree itself. So in this instance, I do not think there's enough there to justify removing the tree.
My thought process on this is, one, it's a healthy tree. There's doesn't seem to be any data that says it's not. And it seems to me like the decision here in some ways boils down to health of the tree in consideration with certain aesthetics. Aesthetics including Cinieri's desire for gardening space and so on and so forth. And then the third part of it here for me is the safety factor, which is kind of new information, right? And so for me, I'm uncomfortable, I'll just say, making decisions about trees and trees removals based on aesthetics. I'm just uncomfortable doing that. I would have a hard time setting that as a precedent for myself in future tree conversations, bringing aesthetics into it. I think that would make me very confused in the future. And as the safety factor is, for me, really an interesting thing, but it seems like a separate assessment needs to be done, because I don't think that I appreciate, Justin, what you said, which of course I use my common sense, and this is part of what I look at. But if there truly is a safety factor, along the lines of line of sight for traffic and things like that, I don't think I can make that call right now. And so as a result, I'm along the lines with Stephen, that I think the appeal should be denied on what we have right now.
We have some pictures of the tree that she has presented, but it looks like the tree has been trimmed from below. So that's a matter of the safety, I think, is the foliage of the tree, and you're able to trim it up so you have sight as you drive out. So I think that takes care of that.
Mm.
Are we ready to make a motion?
I move that we deny the appeal.
I second.
Okay. And I would approve that also. Do we need to make a separate vote? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So Board Member Milich,
Yes.
Chair Hawkins,
Yes.
Board Member Glenzer,
Yes.
Okay. The motion is
Okay.
passed 3-0.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your interest, Carolyn, and going through the process.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else the board needs to discuss?
The last item on the agenda is the board member comments, if there are any general
Right, okay.
board business comments.
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
And Justin, we value you. The difference between my vote was Tanglewood had umpteen trees, hundreds of trees, and this is the only tree. So that was significant to me in terms of the way I voted.
Yeah, I leave this in your hands. I divorce myself from the situation.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you, appellants. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We're adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.